Call the meeting to order. You can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gardine, can we have a roll call?
We sure can. Wonder Jim.
Here.
Van Eck.
Here.
Steffes.
Here.
Gardine here. Campbell.
Here.
DeHaan.
Here.
Highboy.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Please note, as a courtesy to the members of the audience and the Board of Education, please silence your cell phone. Public will only be able to speak during public comment if signed up. I have one form. Do we have any others? Thank you, Mr. Merkel. All right, item number 1, approval of agenda. Can I get a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Support.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? All right. Item number 2, reports agenda. Board members report. Amy,
Yes.
how are you? Why don't you start?
Good.
Yeah.
I've been busy this week doing end of the school year activities with my kids. We've been doing the band concert for the 6th grade, which was fantastic. It's really amazing to see how much growth there is from the fall to the spring. So that was great. And just the end of the year field trips. I was with 2nd graders and got the lovely reminder of what it's like to be around a whole classroom of 2nd graders. So just staying busy.
Good. Thank you. Sir, what can we do for you?
Speaking of growth, I just wanted to say thank you to all the spring athletics, the coaches, the players, the parents. Incredible. When I pull into the back of the high school there and see baseball, softball, track, lacrosse, all going at the same time while I'm watching my daughter play tennis. It's amazing, and we need more parking garage. But a special thanks to Coach Mark, his first year coaching tennis, did a fantastic job. Also Coach Bella, Coach Pete, and Coach Olivia for the girls tennis team. They did just an amazing job, so
Coach Pete.
that's it. Yeah.
That's what they call him?
Yeah, besides that kid.
Yeah. Nice.
They did
Thanks.
great.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Sally?
I've had a busy month. It's been a great month. Recently, I had the Transitions Region 3 crew to my pottery studio, and they made gifts for their mothers, and that was just a wonderful time. They did a great job, so it was a lot of fun. Also, I've had opportunities to spend time at every school, just trying to support our staff, and boy, let me tell you, I remember those days well, and those last few weeks of school are just brutal. So I just give them all sorts of credit for, to the students and to the staff for making these days as special as they can and meaningful in terms of their educational output yet. And so I give them a lot of credit. I also had an opportunity to go today to the zoo with a special little kindergartner that I know in this district, and that was a lot of fun. Again, the staff just putting out tons of extra effort to make sure everything's going well. All the safety factors, our bus drivers, all of these things that are components of our school district that make things run and run well, and I am deeply appreciative of that.
Thank you. Bob?
No report.
All right. Amy?
As with the other Amy, which very confused me when you said Amy, I was ready to go. But we had jazz night, we had the band concerts, we've had art and chocolate walk, which was really fun. One of the things I really loved when we walked up for the band concert is that there were chalk drawings all over the sidewalk, not of like flowers, and there were some flowers and rainbows, but there were also advanced placement econ.
Yeah,
And it was really cool to see that our high schoolers are out there with the chalk drawings, and I'm like, did you do that? Seriously? I love that almost as much as all the art displayed inside. So it was very cool. So thank you that was so much fun to see. Over the weekend, the track and field team coordinated a memorial run for the Hector family. Many of you know that about a year and a half ago, Josh Hector passed away, and they did, last summer they did a memorial run for him, and they the track team came together and did that specifically for that family, and they did it at Heritage Park, and it was beautiful. Also got to take some flowers over to Lisa Vanderlaan after she retired from community ed. She had several bouquets of flowers, by the way, and everybody just brought one. So it was very cool to see that. Varsity lacrosse is heading to regionals. Seniors going to all their elementary buildings today. Man, that is my favorite part of the year with the seniors. There are a lot of really cool things, but watching them sit in those teeny tiny little chairs that they started in. And this is the last Monday of the 2024-25 school year. Stop smiling so big, kids. But no. So lots of. This is a really fun time of the year. We know it, and feel very, very privileged to be a part of it. So.
Thank you. Brent?
All right. Well, we'll hear more from Jack Merkel in a few minutes, but just wanted to congratulate him. I did before, but on an individual state championship, that's an incredible accomplishment to win an individual state championship like that, and to your family for supporting you on all that, because you don't do it alone for sure. Senior awards, that was awesome. Well, several of us were there. It's cool to still know a lot of the kids there. I'm getting down to the end now where I might not, after the next year, maybe know a lot of them. But and then Sam Hungerford's a friend of ours for winning the Ryan Fisher Award. Coach Tusky, the baseball team, went to the game last Thursday. It was down to Grandville and Hudsonville. Whoever won the game won the conference championship. Unfortunately, we came out on the bottom of that. But congratulations to Coach Tuscan and the baseball team on that. And then football, believe it or not, the 100-day out thing was Sunday, so practice starts in 100 days, and our first, Muskegon is on the clock. First game is home against Muskegon, and then the second game is at Cass Tech, so we didn't take a light preseason non-conference schedule. That's it.
All right, good. Thank you. As far as mine items, lots of laughs the past few weeks for us. Last band concert, we had last jazz band concert, last full orchestra concert. We had the senior awards, which was a lot of fun, right? I love all those events. Had a senior assembly today, and Adam, nice job with your speech. Appreciate that. Hopefully, I actually quizzed the boys tonight at dinner what they took away from it. And they said, "What? He said something?" Great. Had to remind him a little bit of being present. That's exactly what he was talking about. Anyway, so and then obviously the walkthrough at the elementary was fun. That was great. And I just want to take a second just to kind of. My wife and I were talking about it, and as we look back at the last 4 years for my son, we are so grateful for all the opportunities the high school and has presented him. He's been able to go to Disney trip with band. He's been able to go to Europe because of the band group. Countless theater productions, band concerts and competitions, tennis matches, and has really been able to do so much and just immerse himself in the high school experience. So we wanted to say thank you to the administration, to the teachers, to the counselors, coaches, and everyone involved. You have all made his experience just unbelievably unforgettable. So thank you very much. And then finally, tonight is actually the senior all-night party. So say a little prayer for the parents and chaperones that make it through the night, and hopefully they have plenty of coffee. Because I'm sure it'll be a lot of tired folks tomorrow morning. So that is all I have.
Okay. So want to start something new. Want to looking forward to next year to honor a kid at hopefully every month at a board meeting. Sometimes it might be a team, but a lot of times it'll be a kid, whether it's athletics, the arts, academics, what have you, to kind of point a person out that's really making a difference. And wanted to start it off because I think this guy really has made a difference in our swim program. We had an amazing swimming season, if you didn't hear, and this person played an integral role in that. So just want to honor Jack Merkel. He finished a remarkable swim career at Grandville High School in 2025, earned an individual state championship in the 100-yard backstroke, lowering his own record, finished fourth in the 100 freestyle, and led the 200 medley relay team to a runner-up finish. The backstroke time earned him All-State and automatic All-American honors. As a team captain in 2025 season, Jack won 3 conference championships and helped the Bulldogs win the first ever OK Red championship. He is an 8-time conference champion with all conference honors, 8-time All-State, 2-time state runner-up, 3-time All-American, and 2025 state champion. So Jack Merkel, if you will please come up. Anything you want to say?
Just thanking my parents, people supporting me.
And coach.
And coach.
Yeah. Coach Matt's here. Obviously, the Merkel family taking up most of this side over here. Awesome. And I think what Mr. DeHaan said is true, and I bet you Jack would repeat that, behind every great student athlete is awesome coaches and a great family, and you definitely have that. So congratulations, my friend. Good luck in college.
Got the lens cap on?
Saved by Adam.
Hey, Jason, can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that a new phone?
Mr. Merkel and his technology. We'll work on that. Next, very excited to announce our KCTC Teacher Academy group is here today, and I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Langto.
All right. So, as you all know, we have our wonderful partners at KCTC, but this past spring, into the summer, they reached out to us because we had such an interest from students from Grandville in the Teacher Academy, and rather than having students go out to KCTC to participate in the Teacher Academy, they asked if we'd be open to hosting a regional program at Grandville High School so that our students could take part in the Teacher Academy program. But it also was a benefit for them because obviously the ask of KCTC students is 3 hours. This allowed our students to be at Grandville for 4 hours of their regular Grandville High School classes, but then take 2 hours of the KCTC program in the Teacher Academy. Lisa Riley is the instructor from KCTC, and she's done a fantastic job. We've been super appreciative. She's just integrated herself right into our staff, and it's been fun to go into the class a few times and get to know what they're doing. And all of our students in the Teacher Academy have been placed within Grandville Public Schools, and they are here to talk about their experience this year and just appreciation for allowing us to do this pilot this year. So, Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, members of Grandville School Board, administration, and community members. I'm Lisa Riley, and I am the instructor for the Teacher Academy Regional Partnership at Grandville High School. I'm honored to be here tonight with several of our students, and I'm really excited for you to hear from them about their experiences. Is there a... Oh, how'd that happen? Did you do that? Thank you. So the regional program is part of a 2-year program at KCTC. So many of these students will go on for their second year out at KCTC, but the first year students, we meet the first 2 hours at Grandville High School. So first semester is in-class coursework at Grandville High School, and then second semester they are going out into the field into K-8 classrooms 3 days a week during their time with us. So it's really exciting. They actually will receive 3 direct credits for Ed Foundations 115 at Grand Valley, but we also have articulation agreements at several schools, as you can see, Central, GRCC, Ferris. So we're looking at some more opportunities for next year as well, but this is what we're currently working with. Some of our key topics are listed right here: child psychology and development, social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, lesson planning and classroom management. They also go through CPR, first aid. They do vector training before they enter the schools, and they explore a lot of variety of different techniques of teaching before they enter the field. So their first semester coursework is really designed intentionally to prepare them for the field placements, and their hours in the field count towards the curriculum requirements for Ed Foundations 115, but also towards the MIYDA, the Michigan Youth Development Associate, and there are 2 tiers for that, so they can earn the certificate after about 240 hours or after 480 hours, so this would be over the course of 2 years. They can earn the credential, and hours outside of our course count for that as well. Any of the mentor teachers that host our students receive sketchies for the time that they spend with our students. I'm going to allow our students now to share some of their experiences, so I will start with Logan. Come on up.
Hello, board. My name is Logan Brewer, and I'm in 11th grade. I'm a junior at the high school, and I am with Miss Emily Terhar at the Grandville Middle School for her 7th grade science class. I got my placement by chance. I did want to be in the middle school, but I personally wanted to do a history class. I think it's a nice, easy subject where everything has already happened. But I was given the chance to join Miss Terhar's science class for her first and second hour. When I first went into the brand new middle school, I was stunned. It was so fancy, and Mrs. Terhar's science class had 6 whole classrooms or TVs in it. And at the high school, I see 6 TVs total throughout my entire school day. The kids in her classrooms were amazing. Of course, they were middle schoolers, so they were wild most times and couldn't do their lessons. But at that time, they were growing into that age where they had the ability to have some control and have some fun at the same time. A lot of them were wanting to ask me nonstop to join me to go copy papers or build stuff for their notebooks, but I always had to say no, and I helped them in other ways, and it was amazing. But at the high school classroom instead, I was initially thrown off when the first week before school, I was sent an email by Mr. Lankto that instead of going to the KCTC building, I was going to be stuck at the high school building. And then on top of that, I was thrown even further when I learned I was going to be the only guy in my classroom, joined by a lot of women. But personally, I don't think I would trade what I got this year for what I got at the KCTC building. Being with these women and being in my classroom helped me become a much better student, possible teacher, and a man. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Avery Thierry. I'm in 11th grade, and I actually worked with 2 teachers this year because I worked with Miss Harder for the first 3 months, and she went on maternity leave, so I had to learn to adapt to technically 2 different classrooms, but with the same kids. One thing that I really learned is had to adapt to change. Just going from having 2 different teachers, you might think that the students stay the same, but these little 2nd graders did not stay the same. Their routine was completely thrown off, even though it was still the same schedule. They just weren't really used to having new teachers. So kind of me being in there for the first hour and a half in the morning kind of helped to deal with the switch, and I definitely think it helped them, and it helped me learn how to just talk to them on a deeper level and get to know them more below the surface, as little kids are different from the surface. I got to go on 2 field trips with my students, actually. We went to like the community field trip. You've probably heard about that, where they go to like the fire station. That was super cool to experience and kind of like see their interests start to stick out a little bit, because they're so little, they don't know what they're doing yet, but they like were really interested, and you could kind of like see what they wanted to do, and I thought that was really cool, and that really stuck out to me. And this experience has really helped me realize that I do want to go into education, and it helped me learn like a lot about myself and a lot about like the leadership role I feel like I have. And I love to work with kids, and I like making an impact on all students. So this class has really been a great opportunity, especially that I didn't just go into college and be like, well, I hope I like teaching. Like I really got an experience and was able to be taught that I do love to teach, and I'm excited to work with kids in my future. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Riley DeGraw. I'm an 11th grade student at Grandville High School, and I was placed in the middle school for a 7th grade geography classroom with Mr. Karlberg. I learned a lot in my placement about classroom management and organization. He's a very organized person, and it was cool working with that because I'm the same way. But I feel like the more valuable part of this experience was learning that regardless of age, kids really do want to open up, and they're open to connection, and they want to trust adults. You just have to be a listening ear and be trustworthy. One experience I had in particular that I felt was like really resonant of that was I did a questionnaire both trimesters I was there. Second trimester, one student, I had a few conversations with her prior to it. She written on the questionnaire like about her mental health, and I was just really impressed that she was so trusting, and I thought that that was really interesting because as I was growing up, like in a younger age group, I really enjoyed being able to open up to teachers and educators, and I really benefited from that, and it was really cool to be that to someone else, and that felt really meaningful. And I think it kind of reminded me of like, this is what I want to do. I want to be working with kids, whether it's in high school settings or whatever setting it might be, but it just really confirmed like, kids is definitely what I want to be working with as an adult. So I thought that was really cool. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brooklyn Diaz. I'm in 11th grade, and my placement was at Pine Grove Learning Center. Those of you that don't know, Pine Grove Learning Center is a center-based program for students whose needs can't be met at local schools. The main takeaway I learned there was accommodating different students' learning needs and styles. Most of my students were nonverbal, and I got the chance to adapt and learn how to communicate with them through either sign language, an iPad, or like an eye tracking device. This class helped me confirm that I do want to be a teacher when I'm older. My favorite part was making connections with both the staff and students. The staff I worked with was so amazing and taught me so many valuable lessons and information. The students taught me patience and unconditional love. I never understood how teachers could say, like, I love my students like my own. But after my experience, I experienced this firsthand, and these kids will hold such a special place in my heart for the rest of my life. My other favorite part was during morning meetings when the kids' faces would light up because either their favorite weather or days of the week song was put on. The biggest thing I learned from this experience was to always be kind and understanding, because for the students at my placement, this might be the only place they're given open opportunities and a safe space to be themselves. They're able to grow and be accepted where they are there at this school. This experience was such a huge blessing for both me and the students I worked with because we both made such a positive impact on each other's lives. That's the reason I want to teach, is to be able to make a positive impact on someone's day and someone's life. I'm beyond grateful for this experience. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire Crabb. I'm in 11th grade, and my placement was at the Grandville Middle School with Mrs. Vergertsky in 8th grade ELA class. I was very hesitant at first because the 8th graders, I'm going to be a senior when they're freshmen, so I was really nervous because they are judgmental. So it was hard to get going at first, but once I got going, it was so much fun. I learned about different teaching styles, and Mrs. Vergertsky taught me the importance of getting to know your classes and adjusting teaching styles to best fit each class. And I learned the amount of impact you have on each kid. Like when I left, I thought they all hated me, but they were all so sad to see me go. They were like, Miss Crabb, no, we can hide you in the storage closet, don't leave. And I made some really good connections. I'm excited to see those kids when I'm a senior. And since they're in middle school, they had to do map testing. During the days they were map testing, instead of going to the library and doing a study hall, I got to do a job shadow at Grandville Elementary in a kindergarten classroom. And it was a lot different seeing 8th graders who are like 13, 14 to kindergartners. And it was so much fun to see both sides of the education realm. And I made connections with students. Just after the first day, I had 5 drawings that they drew me. And when I came back, one of the kids said, "This is the best day of my life." It was so sweet. This confirmed my passion with kids and with education itself. I might not want to be put in a classroom teaching the Diary of Anne Frank, but I know I want to be involved in education and with kids. And the class at KCTC taught us a lot. Either if it's emotional stuff, learning about how your words impact others or how to connect. Each second was super valuable. And we learned CPR training and MIYDA. Yeah. We got credentials, and I can save lives now. I wouldn't be able to do that without this class. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma Moore, and I am a junior at the high school. And I had the opportunity of being placed at the Education Center with Joelle Zdenko. And at first I dreaded it. I did not want to be with preschoolers in the slightest. But I wouldn't have changed it for anything else. They're unique, I will say that, but they have such an energy to them that you see like die off once they get older. And it's just lovely to like witness them have that light in their eyes. But one thing I learned specifically while working in the Education Center was that how important it is for these students to learn through play. They feel safe and connected with all adults and each other when they are playing. They are open to learning, they're trying new things, and they're actually joining in activities instead of just sitting around. And that's just such like a unique thing because I don't see that in the high school. I see students being forced to do stuff or just like dreading it, when if they actually were to try and like get involved, they would actually, possibly like it. And the moment that stuck to me the most when I was working with my special education students with Joelle, it's not something I ever thought I'd be interested in, but I saw how much this style of learning and just their understanding was predominant, and it just made them comfortable in their surrounding that Joelle had provided them. It helped them, how comfortable they were helped them join in activities, and that made them actually comfortable, where you see a lot of special ed students feeling left out or like discriminated against, and you really couldn't see that. Like they were just one of their classmates. They didn't have any like features, like all the students knew this was their friend. This wasn't someone that was annoying, that's someone that screamed all the time. That was just Bob, like that was just their friend. And it showed me how much I truly wanted to work with special needs. And it made me very confident in the fact that I want to work in education. I don't know specifically anymore, because I was so predominant on the fact that I wanted to work in secondary. But after working with these special ed students, it opened my eyes on a completely new opportunity with the ASD and special ed classes. Thank you.
Thank you to our students for those thoughtful reflections. We have a few more students that were in placements. They couldn't be here tonight, but we've had at Central Elementary, the Grandville Intermediate School, some more middle school students, and South Elementary represented as well. And I'm so proud of this group of students, and I can attest, if I can comment on Emma, our first day, when she went to the ECC, she came back in tears. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And the last day she came in just sobbing. I could see her walking in from the parking lot. Mrs. Riley, I'm going to miss my class so much. And so the trajectory and the growth that I've seen in all of the students has just been amazing. So thank you for giving them this opportunity and giving me this opportunity. And moving forward, we're just looking to make more connections and more schools in Grandville that we can place our students in for these great experiences. So on behalf of myself and our students, thank you so much. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
How are any of you signed up to be at the GEC this summer with the, you're hooked. I love it. That's great. That's great. I'm so happy to see that. Yeah.
Well, were we intimidating as you stood behind that podium? Okay. Then you're on your way to be great teachers, because you really weren't that intimidated, because we can tell when people are intimidated behind there. So you're that comfortable presenting who you are and how to get people to communicate with you. So you did great. Logan, my son went to Michigan State, and in his final, his was special needs. There were 3 guys and 33 women. So he enjoyed it, actually. And Avery, I hope you enjoyed Mr. Gelmy, because he's one of my favorites. Riley, how was Mr. Carver?
He's so fun.
Is he?
Great. I love his drawing.
He's got a lot of passion, doesn't he? Yeah. And Brooklyn, bless your heart for Pine Grove. I personally know what that school is like, so that's awesome. You got so much. And Claire, I gotta say, Claire's my favorite, because Shop with a Cop, we rap together. So I'm glad you liked Lisa Figursky, because she's one of my favorites, and I also like to say the name Figursky a lot. And then Emma, God bless you for trying to get into special needs. You guys did great. You really did. You know, I love where you got the passion. So thank you for that.
Well, I mean, I just comment, what a great program. I know a person that went to college for 2 or 3 years before they went, like thinking they wanted to be an elementary ed teacher. And then when they did the, I don't know what you call it, student assisting or teaching or whatever, determined quickly that they didn't want to do that anymore. And so that was a long ways down the road to find that out, so you guys get the opportunity to do that now, so that's great.
Is the reason that they're going back to KCTC for their 2nd year, is there a reason other than they're going to be placed in other schools? I'm just wondering why they're leaving. Can't we keep them at Grandville?
I mean, that's a administrative conversation.
I didn't know if there was another reason behind it.
There's not a reason right now, other than it's just how it fits for the rotation, because we do lose some students. We have a couple seniors. We had 3 seniors in this group too, so then that brings us down to 10. So, and then we end up losing a few others from the KCTC program, so it's just how it works in the rotation at the moment. But I think we're all open to growth in this field, so.
I think it's really impressive that every single one of you talked about the connections that you made with the students and how meaningful that was. And that is what's going to make you a successful teacher, is because, yes, content is important to teach, but making those connections with students, making them feel cared for, loved, and accepted is one of the most important things you'll ever do as a teacher. And so I'm so glad to hear that all of you got that already. So that's impressive.
And it really helped with the connections we built in our class. With it being at Grandville, it was we had to connect with each other. Well, that's gonna sound bad, but we were all so close to each other. We know a lot about each other, and we're always there. It's so nice to know that you have 13 other people by your side if you need anything.
And to add on to that, all of us came in from different friend groups, different sides of the school, different things, but we all had one interest in teaching, and Miss Riley helped us build that community so well. Like, we were just like a big family. Like, on the days we were in class 2 days a week, on those days we were in class, like, we were so excited to be with each other. We were so excited to talk about our placements. We were so excited to just connect with each other, because that's how much we grew as a group.
You're already your own staff, is what you are. You have your own staff lounge and all of that, yeah.
One of the things that I love about this is how this has been a push also with Mr. Barrett as far as getting some of these things from KCTC to come and be housed in our building. And this, to me, proves how very vital it is to build that community within our community and how effective that's been. It's also been really cool to see that you were placed in places, maybe Emma, that you didn't want to go right away, and every single one of you learned. And that is good instruction. That is good focus on what matters in the educational process, maybe not what level, but very much so. Thank you for bringing them into a situation where they had to grow. So that's great.
And now you can all be ambassadors for your program, right? And bringing it back and making sure that we do continue to get a lot of kids involved in this. And you guys have seen too, and you've heard stories from your own teachers, right? We'd love to hire Grandville grads back at Grandville, right? And we know it's a special place. I hope you guys feel it's a special place, and I think you're starting to learn, you can be a special part of that place. So thank you for guys, all you do. And Logan, I'll tell you, I've got a brother who is a middle school teacher, right? Now, what, Jeff, 6'3", 290, I mean, big guy already, right? But he'll tell you the key to middle school for a guy, facial hair. That intimidates the living daylights out of the kids, he says, right? Now, my brother, like 6'3", 290, big burly football guy, but he's the most jovial guy you'll meet. He's so happy. But he was in school, he's got that facial hair, and that's what keeps all the kids in line, you see. So there you go. That's my only tip I got for you, so there we go. Ladies, you're on your own in middle school.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys being here and being that initial group to pave the way. So awesome. Okay, and I have one more piece. We have the 2024-25 data review and systems presentation. We have Mr. Merkel and Mr. Glarum here to talk a little bit about our system and how we go about that. What's that? Yes.
Certainly the only thing that could follow a presentation like that is MTSS.
There, you cleared the room. Nice job.
I probably feel more intimidated than this.
Yeah, that's not the first time. We are excited to share this with you. Jason put together a great presentation here, always does. We wanted to revisit some of our systems work. There's going to be a two-parter because we're going to lead into tonight is going to be more of just a reminder of the depth of our systems and how we look at data as a district. It's something, our MTSS system is something we're super proud of. We've had visitors, repeatedly we get visitors who want to come and model our systems, watch our systems. They've come from as far away as Cincinnati, Ohio. I know we've had video visits from even farther away, but it's something we're really proud of. We're going to talk about some data tonight. It'll go back to last spring. As you heard, I think Claire mentioned the map testing that's going on right now. We don't have this spring's data, so we want to wait. That'll be the two-parter later this spring where we'll bring an actual data update. Although I'm excited to share some math data a little later as well. So.
Okay, good. All right, I am really proud of our MTSS model here. Like Scott mentioned, we get requests all the time. In fact, Adam is talking about ways maybe we can monetize this because we get once a month or more schools who want to meet with us by video or to come and visit. We have one on Friday morning meeting with a team. And we have also had the opportunity to present at state and national conferences on our model. And we've been asked back next year, although I'm not sure what that looks like. So we have gone through our MTSS model in the past, but it's been a number of years, and we've had a number of new board members join. And while MTSS is something that people kind of generally know about, I think it's important to know what we do here, specifically around MTSS. So the first part of this, the why of this, John Haddy is a familiar name in education research, and he researched RTI, which is that was kind of a precursor to the MTSS model, but his research applies to the MTSS work similarly. And he found an effect size of 1.29, which is a lot higher than the average effect size of 0.4 that a lot of education practices end up with. And 0.4 and above is what he considers to be kind of that point at which you start to see, okay, having a big impact on what we're doing. And the follow-up to that is just MTSS is one of the most effective strategies to enhance student performance that we know of. So MTSS is broken up into kind of 5 key areas. And one of those is selection and alignment of our instruction, our interventions and supports. What we do when we look at any kind of set of materials that we're looking to adopt, or if we're looking to adopt intervention materials, or whatever it may be, a new assessment, we go through a selection process where we walk through, does this fit with what we're currently doing? Do we have the resources to implement this? Do we have the resources to scale this up? If we're doing a pilot, do we have a need for it? Right? It just shows that this is actually a need that we have. And can we sustain it over time? And that alignment piece says we know what effective instruction looks like, we know what we're already doing, do the things that we're looking to adopt fit with that and support what we're already doing. And that doesn't mean that every single thing has to be supported by everything that we do. And you can't have something that conflicts, right? You can't say, hey, we teach science and reading here and then adopt materials that are whole language, right? So you need to make sure that what you're doing fits with what we're already doing, and that you're not duplicating things unnecessarily, right? There are lots of new shiny objects out there in education, and the temptation is to jump to a new one. If we already have something that's doing the job, why are we looking to put out something new that we can learn and duplicate something else? So that selection and alignment process is both a starting point for our selection materials, and at the end of any kind of data conversation, if we find that something is not working like we hope it would, there's a deselection process. So we would say, does this need to be deselected and replaced with something else, or just dropped altogether? So that's something we systematically set up as part of our model. The second part of MTSS model is comprehensive screening and assessment. And so we're looking at screening being, we're looking for risk for students. Our assessment system, you're looking at formative assessments and outcome assessments. And just listed here are a number of different pieces of data that we collect on a regular basis that become components of our ongoing data review process. And so from universal screening through Peli and Acadians testing, MAP testing, STEP testing, the SAT, those are familiar. Swiss behavior documentation is something that we track in schools for when students have behaviors, particular behaviors that result in some sort of suspension or time out of the classroom, major behaviors or administrative management behaviors. Early warning indicators at the secondary, we're looking at attendance numbers, at suspension numbers, course failures, GPA, to see where risk is for individual students, but also for kind of our overall system, where are we with our attendance numbers as a system over time, or our course failures. The social risk screening scale is screening for internalizing and externalizing risk for kids, so kids who are experiencing anxiety or depression or behavior kinds of disorders, and then responding to that. We have our school climate data, our voice survey, which we just took in the school climate survey, is something we still take for 3rd and 4th graders because the voice survey doesn't go down that level. Tiered delivery system, this is often what people think about when they think about MTSS. They think, oh, this is how we deliver support for students. And this would be kind of that RTI model that represents the starting points for this. Tier 1 is every student. That would be your core curriculum. Every student gets that core curriculum. That would be your PBIS model in the building, right? So that behavior, defining expected behaviors, and then based upon screening and testing and teacher identification, parent requests, some students go on to more tier 2 level support. Tier 2 is kind of standard template support. So we have a kid who's struggling with phonics. We have a phonics intervention. That student goes into a group and gets that intervention. Tier 3 is a few students, 3 to 5%, who need something specifically designed for that student. It's not just a standard template. They have severe phonics deficits. Just the standard program or intervention that we have isn't going necessarily do the job or has not done the job so far, and so we would then design something specifically for that student. I think about it, for those who have seen the Lego movies, they have the master builders, right, and they'll be like falling through space, and then suddenly they go poof, and all the pieces will have all the numbers around them, right, and they grab all the pieces and they build an airplane, right? That's what Tier 3 is, right? It's what does this student need, which pieces I need to grab, I support that student, rather than the Lego kit, which is about Tier 2. Team-based leadership, and this is the core of what we do within TSS. This is where the work actually happens. We have a district-level team that oversees district-level capacity to support MTSS implementation, and 3 times a year we do a district data review where we look at system-wide data from all the schools across all those different areas and make decisions and set goals for direction for district needs. I support that team. Every building has a building implementation team. They call them different things in different buildings, but the gist of it is that that's the team that's set up MTSS in that building, and that's the team that monitors ongoing implementation of MTSS. They also meet as a building level and discuss building level data for each window and over time as well. And then we have our MTSS coaches, our school psychologists support those building teams for that systems level work. And then our social emotional learning coaches support those teams around any kind of that behavior, social emotional need for the system. That PBIS model part of what we do. Grade level teams, the benchmark meetings that we have 3 times a year, the grade level teams look at their classroom and grade level data within a building, and they figure out kind of where student needs are and adjust their curriculum and response at a Tier 1 level for their classroom or grade level within the building. And then in between the benchmark meetings, they have a progress monitoring meeting. So about 6 weeks in from the first meeting, they have a meeting where they just look and say, hey, the goals that we set, are we making progress on those, or see what we need, et cetera. And then they also do some intervention group planning for students who need extra support. Our reading interventionists, math interventionists, our SEL coaches, literacy coach support those teams as well. And then kind of on the other side of that, we have our Tier 1 behavior data analysis team. So once a month, I mentioned that we collect that SWIS data and we can see what time of day our behavior is happening, where our behavior is happening, what are the behaviors that we're seeing, is it a grade specific thing, is it a building-wide issue, and that team meets and just looks at that building level data and says, and I compare it to kind of a heat map, like where's that, if we look at a heat map for a whole building behaviorally, where are those hottest burning areas, right? Is it the playground, is it the lunchroom, is it peer conflict, and that team comes up with a plan for how to respond to that and then shares that out with the building for building behavior concerns. And then our intervention team meets every couple of weeks, and we vet students who need special behavioral support and then monitor those students every 2 weeks. And then continuous database decision making. I mentioned that we have the grade level meetings, building level meetings, and those district level meetings. That's the core of where we're really digging into data and problem solving, user problem solving model. Like what are the problems, the gap areas that we're seeing? Why do we think that we're seeing those? What are some potential responses to those, and then generating an objective and an action plan for how to target some of those needs.
Jason, can I ask you, like, when you say district level, are you talking by grade level, district-wide?
For district level meetings?
Yeah.
That's our district level team.
Okay.
And we meet, we have a representative group, somebody from each building is on that team, and then from different disciplines we have that meet. And we walk through kind of what is our overall data. And sometimes the discussion does become like, wow, 3rd grade across the board is struggling with fluency or whatever. Right. Or it could be like, as an entire district, we have a strength in basic computation, but we're having more difficulty with this. What can we adopt? Okay. Something years ago we adopted Haggerty to address phonemic awareness deficits, because we noticed in our data across the district, K1, that we needed something for phonemic awareness. So that's the idea there.
Thanks.
Another question for you, just out of curiosity, when you're looking at the building level teams, right, we talked about the implementation teams and so forth, one of the things that struck me today when I went back to Cummings is that there was very few of the teachers that were still at Cummings that were there, and my son was there just 6 years ago, right? So my question is, how static, and maybe this is more of a question for you guys too, how static are the staffs at those elementaries, and can you, I guess my fear is, right, if we're constantly moving around, you're losing your building implementation team and that ownership and that mastery of it within those facilities. I mean, is there like constant training that's going on for those people that are going to own it in those facilities, or how do you?
That's the system, right? I mean,
Okay.
that's part of, we have a couple of different measures that we take that detail what we need to have in place to sustain a model at the building level. And so as we have new teachers, typically a couple people will be holdovers that are still on the team, and then we'll roll those in. But that's part of that coaching model too.
Okay.
Because our MTSS coaches, when we get a new psychologist and they become an MTSS coach for building, I meet with them, I work through shoulder by shoulder to kind of help them through this process.
Gotcha.
And then they kind of phase in, your teachers phase in and kind of develop understanding on job training.
Yeah, but you feel that you're pretty good with that core building implementation team or ownership team. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I meet once a month with all of the MTSS and SEL coaches, and I just listen through, we talk through like, okay, where are you with each building? How's each building doing? What are the needs? And then we can kind of respond, with support as each of each building. Like, wow, our tier 1 meetings are not going very well.
Yeah.
Great, I'll pop in and we can kind of reorient to what we're supposed to be doing now.
Got it. Thank you.
And then some data, like Scott mentioned, this is through last spring. It's not including this year's data. And the reason for that here is that, as you know, buildings became K4 this year. So all of the data up through last spring was K6. So to be able to look at a long-term historical, I haven't had time to drop 5th and 6th from the last 2 years of data and recalculate because that's not how I work. I'm going to see if the ISD can help us with that, but I'm interested to be able to monitor that long-term data so far. But if you look at our Acadians composite score, district-wide, you can see, can I guess where COVID is just by looking at the graph? You can see that, right? Really, really clear. But you can see also, since COVID, we have rebounded significantly. And if you look at last spring's score, that orange bar, that 78% at or above benchmark district-wide, the average from fall 2016 to winter 2020 was 77.9%, essentially 78%. So that puts us right back at where we were pre-COVID. And what I really like to see too is you can see the orange bar, the light purple bar, the light orange bar, the light pink bar. That's spring data, right? You can see that by responding to what students are doing across that year and seeing where the gaps are and responding to those gaps, by the end of the year, we're able to fill any deficits that we're seeing really and that's what we want to be doing. That's part of the reason for our data is that regardless of what the group of students is that comes in the door, we want our teaching, our instruction to be what makes a difference for those students. If the students who come in low, the students who come in high, what did our teaching do? Right? Other than just move them lockstep forward. We want to be able to even out those different groups. MAP reading scores, spring 2014 through spring 2024. There and on the right is, so the left is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. The right is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And what in this and in the next couple of slides, one of the things that we've been talking about is when you look at this data, when you look at elementary scores, we took a big hit with COVID. Like kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, they dropped like a stone those first couple of years after COVID. Our 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th grade didn't drop as much as quickly, but it's more of a delayed reaction. And so you'll see that some of the data in middle school and high school has actually been lower the last few years than it was directly coming out of COVID. And the cumulative, my hypothesis is that the cumulative impact of several years of COVID didn't hit them immediately. There was a delayed kind of wake reaction to that.
Is it the same age as they move up in grade? So do we have a special needs son? Do we have a special needs class? Let's make it as generic as possible. That we probably should put a little bit more energy into that particular class, because as they go through, they're not achieving the results that the district would like.
I haven't seen any one specific class, but that's a next step. Is I want to trace that cohort, right?
I understand.
And we have done some cohort tracking. I wouldn't say that there's one particular class. Like the kids, the hardest hit was that first grade class in the fall of 2020, right? They missed 3 months of the kindergarten year. They came in, those are the lowest rock bottom scores we've ever seen for fall universal screening. But they actually bounced back quickly, right? Because and I think for some of our early elementary kids, you're talking about pretty discrete skills, right? When you take, so when you lose 30% of your school year or 25% of your school year for phonics or phonemic awareness, you know exactly what to backfill pretty quickly. But if you lose 20% of reading comprehension at a higher level, that's not an immediate hit, right? Because, reading comprehension is a complex skill. And so you lose a little bit of that for a few years in a row, the cumulative effect later becomes bigger. But in the moment, it's not as obvious. That's my hypothesis.
Okay.
I don't know, we have more digging to do. Generally, we have bounced back quite well from COVID. And we'll present some updates. Scott has some good data too for his presentation a little later.
And is this similar to other school districts that you have the ability to compare and analyze with?
So the comparison data that I have seen, we have actually done better rebounding than general countywide and statewide rebounding.
Okay.
So
That speaks to the MTSS
and our model
process.
yeah. And even, we had a good model going into this, and we held on to it by the skin of our teeth, and we held on to it, right? Like there were a couple years there where we didn't really move much forward motion with what we were implementing and doing, but we held on to what we were doing pretty well. And a lot of districts didn't. And I heard that from, I work with the ISD quite a bit, and they support districts for the ZSS model, and they said like some of it just went completely out the door for a couple of years, and then they had to kind of restart, and we grew to that. So, great. Math, Scott has a lot of information about math coming up. You can see that there. You can see, third, fourth, and fifth grade numbers have gone up quite a bit, and Scott will talk about that. And some of our other numbers have gone down, so I'll talk about that, and also what we're doing about it. And so that's this is MSTEP passing numbers. And you guys can get a copy of this too, and dig into this more, so you have questions. But just wanted to share a little bit. Like Scott mentioned, we will be coming back this summer and doing a deeper data dive when we have this spring's data to be able to fold in.
Yeah, and when we do that, we'll tie some of our immediate action steps as well. We talk about that secondary dip. We've already initiated, not spoiler alert, we've already initiated conversations with both the middle school and high school about literacy instruction. That's one of the hardest things. We started to look for a model out there to copy for secondary reading, and they're just not there. And so we're going to forge a path to blend in those interventions, those skill-based components at the secondary level, coming right out of the data. So we're super excited about that.
This is and the reason this is in here is because this is a fall test, so we have this year's fall data for 2024 here. I think if you look at that left graph, the number that are meeting or exceeding benchmark has jumped quite a bit this year. And compared to last year, the not yet approaching has gone down. So we've taken some from the not yet approaching into the meeting and exceeding there. Our mean score, the middle graph, that mean score is up this year, which is positive. You can see that on the right too, just to combine there. So seeing growth in that area, which is encouraging. We have PSAT and SAT data, but again, this spring data is not yet available. So we'd like to be able to include that in kind of a more comprehensive update. And what Scott will talk about with, again, spoiler alert, but with the math, what he's going to be talking about is specifically a data-based response to our math need. And saying, you know what, we need to do something different than what we're doing because we have the data to support the trajectory we were on. We added some things that made a big difference and found out that our core we were using was not doing exactly what we hoped. And so, questions, comments, good jokes?
Nice overview. I understand it every time you talk about it. It's been, what, 6 times I've heard it? So I'm getting better, Jason.
I'm fascinated. Have we done any dissection or look back at these COVID years, right? Because we know they were so devastating, at the end of the day, and the approach that the country took, whatever, probably wasn't the right way, but barring never to having to go and do that again, right, and get our kids out of school for that situation, we never know when a tornado is going to come and wipe out the high school, right? And we were forced back into more, remote learning. Have we learned anything about if we need to do this again, how we prevent this type of a dip? And then maybe it's a different discussion, but I mean, this is great data, it's showing us, but I mean, has there been any deep dive on a state, national, local level to say, because I mean, you're one disaster away from losing a building, unfortunately, and we see it, unfortunately, we see it a lot in Missouri and Oklahoma, right? These schools get wiped out. Is there a model out there?
I think one model, no. I think at a local level, though, what we did made a huge difference.
Right, yeah,
and we
yeah.
learned a lot from that. I mean, we were in person as long as as long of a duration as we could be. We started that year back in person. We had just that blip. But, everybody went through trauma.
Yeah.
And everything was different. And, I think we learned a lot of things that we still do today that, that'll help in those types of situations.
Okay. Good.
But, huge learning experience, huge challenge, and I think our people rose to that challenge. I mean, I think numbers like this speak to having a robust system in place that, works. And works well. It's just not isolated things that we're doing in pockets. It's a system throughout our district that is making a huge difference. And like Jason said, when Scott talks later on in our agenda here, you'll hear how we did take something using this system and totally transformed it, which I think is great. But I think we'd be more if something happened like that, like a major disaster, a tornado or whatever, I think we would know the key things that we would want to do and be able to do that instead of sitting in this room like Groundhog's Day, day after day, trying to figure out what the heck are we going to do, which is exactly what we did during the early COVID times. We were all apart, but we were in this room spread out, every day trying to figure out what is that schooling look like for kids. And I think we found some good elements with that'll work, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say very well done. In my day job, I get to look at systems implementation in districts all over the state. And it is always a pleasure when one of my students is placed in Grandville. And just the details, and I think just the systems thinking is very impressive. And I think the data really speaks to that. What do you see just from some of your systems? What do you see kind of the next challenge, or where are some areas that you think that the district might want to kind of move towards, or what is kind of popping up?
Yeah, so one of the next things that we're working on, and I'm actually going to be talking with principals about it at our community retreat, is formalizing tier 3. Because we have behavior plans out there, and we have suicide safety plans out there, but they're all just kind of pop up, right? And so how do you integrate that so that you're folding that into your DSS model better, and creating a consistency and an integration of that. And so that's what we're on next.
Great.
I would say probably one thing that we always can do a better job with, I think everybody can, is fidelity. You know, you have systems, you have strategies you come up with, and so on, but we also know life gets busy, teaching gets busy, and things are very complex, and sometimes to keep the eye on making sure that we're very intentional about doing what it is we said we would do in those strategies is sometimes your focus gets taken off that and you have to shift back on. And so I think that's something we're always looking at.
I view part of my role on like the water tower, right, to keep pressure on the system. Right? And I have joked, or not even joked, like seriously when I present, I talk about when they first gave me this position, I thought, well, I don't know how long-term this is going to be, but if they can just give me 3 years, I can get it set up so it runs by itself. It'll never run by itself, right? Not without somebody keeping tabs, emailing, like, hey, did you get this done? There needs to be somebody helping keep the system moving.
And Jason does a fabulous job championing this. I mean, it would not be where it's at without him, so kudos to him.
And if anybody wants to have another hour, 2, 3 hours, yes, you just give me a call.
Watch out, Amy will take you up.
I will. Well, I really like what you were saying, Roger, about the fidelity in practice and pedagogy. And I think that what I'm going to be interested in hearing about is how is it that our staff, our teaching staff in particular, are being given the time and the expert training in all areas, whether it's tier 3 or 2 especially, and how is that manifesting itself into a standard practice across all curricular disciplines and stuff. Because I know, like I recall when I was a 6th grade teacher, I had to piecemeal my math curriculum all the time. And to have sub come in, it was really kind of challenging. And we were in that transition time, and I know that. I think it's probably improved since then, I hope and pray. But it was just challenging because I was pulling from probably 6 different resources at the time that we were given to pull from to meet our standards. And I don't feel like that is fidelity. I think that is like trying to find the bandage for the gashing wound. And I'm going to be anxious to hear and look forward to hearing about how that level of fidelity is occurring to help us, make some differences here too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Now I'm done.
Now you're done. Okay, fair enough. Any old business?
No old business.
All right. Consent action agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Regular action items. 5A, the resolution designating district election representatives. All right. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably need a motion and support.
Oh, yeah. Can I
So
get a motion?
moved.
Yes, thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so the resolution that we looked at last time and talked about dealing with the biennial election for the Kent ISD, it's taking place June 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. They have 2 6-year term seats up for election, and they are both incumbents, and they're the only 2 that did register to do these 2 positions again. Laura Featherston, treasurer, and David Drake, trustee, and you have their information in front of you. We also talked a little bit about last time we need a representative from this board to attend that meeting on June 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Kent Conference Center, and then Mr. Steffes is going to do that, and
I'll be
Mr.
back.
Hybor is going to be the backup plan, right? Okay. So, any questions about this?
Do we have to vote in a lady from Rockford? Joking, I'm joking.
Fair question.
Thank you.
Fair
It's
question.
true. It's
All right. So with this, a vote, is it, we just?
It's for.
Filling in the names of
Yeah,
these
it's
people?
filling in the
Okay.
names for Joe to, when he goes down to cast a ballot for these two people on behalf of you.
So do we have to do two separate votes or just one altogether?
No, just one altogether for the passing the resolution.
Okay, all right.
It'll be filled in with those.
Any other discussion on this? All right. All those in favor? Yes?
Yes.
All those opposed?
No.
Item 5B, K-4 Math Supplemental Resource Purchase. Recommendation, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the purchase of one-year digital licensing of Reflex and Frax Math from Explore Learning for $57,396.15, which is a two-year license, and Dreambox Math from Discovery Education for $48,500, which is a one-year license. The purchase includes site licensings for all elementary schools, providing access to all K through fourth grade teachers and students in the buildings. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and we mentioned that Dr. Merkel would be back to give you an overview of this and talk about some data.
And I'm also going in on my very good friend Kristen Elder, second grade teacher at Cummings Elementary. Kristen has been a member of our math vertical team for at least 8 years. So very, very valuable resource. But like we talked about, Sally, to your question that you ended your comment kind of leading into broad question, to me that comes down to selection and alignment. 10 years ago we did not have the specific selection and alignment process that we do now, and so we were just kind of, we'd see that flashy thing and we'd think, wow, that must be great, we're gonna go with that, right? And we never got to fidelity with anything because we were always jumping around. And so we'll talk more about that, but I appreciate the point. And this comes from work that started post-COVID. If you remember, once COVID hit, everything online was free. Right? Selection alignment went out the window, right? Because everybody was just trying to keep their head above water. And it was the right thing at the right time in order to do that. But we had to rein things back in. If you remember back in 2018, 2019, that's when we adopted Envisions from, it was Pearson Publishing back then. It was our first major math adoption in at least 10 years. And it was the right thing at the right time. When COVID hit, we allowed a number of other resources. We were using something called Splash Math. We leaned into Khan Academy, something called Extra Math. But there were just a lot of things out there. And through 2020 to 2022, those were permitted. We let people go loose. We leaned on professional judgment. It was the right thing to do. As we came back, we started to tighten back up into our selection and alignment and re-establishing some of that fidelity. In 2023, 2024, we had a grant, a COVID grant called 98C. You might remember we asked for approval to purchase a couple of online resources. The main one we had been using was Map Accelerator, third grade. That's an error, I apologize, it was third grade through 8th grade. And Map Accelerator linked our NWEA map scores to Khan Academy courses that would give students individualized practice based on their score. Great thing. Reflex and Frax was recommended to focus on fact fluency. Our math team had decided that was a major issue, a need area. We piloted, we saw great success, and that was 2nd grade through 6th grade. We had the grant money, we didn't want to leave K1 out, and so we found the Dreambox resource that, again, was an online individualized practice component. They take a placement test and it levels where they are, so in conjunction with their core lesson, everybody has an element of independent digital practice. That was our timeline. I'm going to go a little out of order because our recommendation for next year is based on what I'm going to show you next in the data in terms of the timeline of all of this. Our Envisions license is up, and Envisions is a complete, what they would consider a complete program, and it's very expensive. When we adopted it 6 years ago, our 6-year license was about $330,000. Now it would jump to about $500,000, but it would have all the student workbooks, teacher materials, and a digital component that our teachers didn't really like. And we'll look at some success.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, please do.
So when you're talking about this, did you say 600,000?
Close to, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure, because is that for another 6 years?
Well, the more years you go, the more it drops a little bit.
No, I understand that. But my question is,
So if we went 6
we're looking
to 8,
at
I
a
think we could
2-year
get it down to
license.
about 5.
Okay, so it's 2 versus 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the timing is important, because I'm going to talk about how
Okay.
long the licensing that we're asking for this year. Dreambox is only 1-year license. We're going to have to come back again annually. But we surveyed all of our teachers about their Envisions use, and it was good, it wasn't great. And so to supplement, next year we're going to pilot something different district-wide. We've never done a year-long pilot before, but we wanted everybody to try something. It's called illustrative math. We're going to do a K-4 pilot next year. Illustrative math is it's a open AER resource that was built out of the University of Arizona. Bill McCullough was one of the authors. He was one of the writers of the Common Core. And it's highly, highly regarded in ed reports. And so we're going to try it. It's a little more cost effective, which allows us to layer in some paid components that we've seen success with. So when we take a look at Envision's effectiveness, this is back, whoa. Well, what did I do, Walter? My laser pointer's not going to work. Oh no. So when you take a look at the graph on the right, they dip down because those are fall and winter scores. I couldn't pull those out of my report. But you see what happens in the top. Those spring scores are pretty stagnant. We saw some dips with COVID, we know that. But the reality is back from 2018, prior to Envisions, we haven't seen that growth that we had hoped. So let's jump into some specific grade level scores. We see the dip go down from COVID. In 2023 was when we were very targeted and implemented some new online digital resources. This is 2nd grade, and Kristen can speak to that specifically with her kids, but we layered in the fact fluency in addition to our tier 1 lessons. And we immediately saw increases. It was the only thing we changed. I'm not saying it's causal, but it was the only thing we changed. So our longitudinal 3rd grade snapshot, you see that jump with a new resource added in. 4th grade, you can kind of see the pattern here in terms of that math writ. This is 5th grade, and then 6th grade.
What was that online?
This is the reflex. This is the very targeted, district-wide fact fluency.
Okay.
So it supported the base level fact fluency that our teachers said, our lessons are okay, but we need the facts.
All teachers said the kids are lacking in their facts. They can't recall their addition facts, they can't recall their subtraction facts, they don't know their multiplication facts, and that was carrying on through the years. So we added in this program. And when Scott came to our vertical team this year and brought to us that, our Envisions resource, that, the license was up and we needed to look at what we were going to do, he showed us this data, and it was very interesting. And that truly, since we have added in Reflex, and that also has a fractions component as well, we have seen great growth. And I can say that in my building, we were celebrating last week at our building improvement team, my principal, we have our spring math scores. And again, there was a great increase. I mean, my math scores are, I mean, they've always been good, but they're even greater now. But you can see that growth with the kids because that piece is being taken care of. And it's an individualized program that meets each of their needs, and it's working.
Nice.
So, one of the things we're asking for today, when we came with the grant, we implemented Reflex 2nd grade through 6th grade. But now, we're asking K4, it's really gonna be 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade because it only starts in 2nd grade. It's not developmentally appropriate prior to that. But now, most of our students have had that progress for a couple of years. And so in conversations with Brian Mulder and the Oakstown team, they said our kids have it now. Scott, we don't, you know, they've been through 2nd, 3rd, 3 years, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, getting into 5th grade. The number that need that fact practice, well, it follows Jason's pyramid. It's that small percentage, and at that point, need something different. This hasn't worked, we're gonna go to something a little more specific. So we're actually cutting back on our building licensing for Reflex and Frax moving ahead to next year because of the success we've had.
So 5, 6 will be, when you say intentional and targeted, would be more like pre-algebra stuff, more in-depth fraction
Not yet, because any of those students who still need basic fact practice,
Okay.
we gotta dig deep on that.
Okay.
Because they've
So
been
the
through
tier 3
years of
needs
this practice
additional help
that
to
hasn't
get
worked.
to the common.
And it's
Yes.
really just a very small, it's that small percentage that probably we're looking tier 3 in potential special education assessments because we've tried things and we've monitored and been through the process.
You said that Reflex Frax, was that less money than doing the, I can't remember the other one. The
Envisions,
yeah.
yes. And Envisions, what we learned initially was that it just lacked that fact practice. And so when I went to the vertical team, what I told them was, we have some tough choices to make because if we're gonna buy a complete program, we can't pay for supplementals. We've seen the budget. So we have to choose where are we gonna be really intentional with spending our money and looking at the data. They were pretty sold on where we needed to be. But digging deeper, this is what I get really excited about. So remember K and 1, they don't use Reflex, they use Dreambox, and I'm gonna talk about that. But post-pandemic, you see, ignore the blue bar on the far left, that's one student. That did pretty well. I'm not sure how that happened. It was that year we were trying to test remote and but when you take a look at one of the impacts of post-COVID, if you look at that bar, those are fall scores. So over the last 3 years, our average RIT score for incoming kindergartners is down 5 points. That's a societal impact. But take a look at the final score in the spring on the right. We're still moving up 1 percentage point. So it doesn't look like a giant gain if you look only at spring scores. But like Jason said, when you take a look at where students are starting, the impact is significant. Same thing so jumping to 2nd grade, we're still seeing that dip. We're starting lower than we ever have, and we're finishing higher than we have. And this is average spring scores. 3rd grade, we see that jump. Again, 7 RIT points from the year before, 5 from 2 years ago, which was the highest. 4th grade, it doesn't look as big, it's a 4-point score. 5th grade, and 6th grade was 2, and we'll look at those later this summer when we can layer in this year's, but when we're choosing resources, right, we want to make sure every student is making at least 1 year's growth, but any student that's behind grade level needs to make plus, right, a year plus if they're ever going to get back to where they are. So we're looking at achievement plus annual growth, and this comparison to general education versus special education. So the arrows show the very far right arrow for meeting typical growth. This is our kindergarten students who make 1 year's growth. 73% fall to spring, which is Is that 73? Yeah, 12 percentage points higher than the year before. Now this one, again, I couldn't parse out the specific pieces, but when you take a look at the one on the right now, that 74.4%, those are just our special education students. 3 out of every 4 students in special education made at least 1 year's growth. The year before that, it was less than half.
That's impressive.
That's kindergarten.
Is that the entire?
That's the entire district.
No, yeah, the entire special needs population?
Yes, everyone with an IEP.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
even our regional
That one's hard to
programs
that's I
take-
can't get my brain around that one.
Yeah, take the MAP test. So this is first grade. You see on the far right, the 81.5%, that's our general education making a year's growth. 60% in special education. The year before that, special education was 45%. And again, these are math-specific scores. So those were K1 that I just showed you. The Dreambox resource was the ad for K1. It's an individualized program. They get on, they call it playing Dreambox. You get on, you do some lessons, and it levels them where they are. There's an AI component built in to analyze all of that, and their goal, what they say based on their research, is 5 lessons completed per week, per student. Each lesson takes about 10 minutes, so it's less than an hour a week, in addition to your core instruction. Students last year, district-wide, who finished the recommended 5 lessons per week, our lowest growth was 1.4 years. Our highest growth was 1.8 years. That's average by building based on this resource. If they're meeting the target completion in addition to their core instruction. Now, those are the people who are meeting that. So let's be transparent. Those students who are having trouble meeting those 5 lessons are the ones that probably need support. But they're also a smaller number. So teachers can pull small groups, can get independent support to what that looks like. One of the nice things about Dreambox as well, we were piloting it with a 3rd grade classroom over at Grandville. And it was in Mary Vandermeer's class. And I don't know if you were at the meeting where Mary spoke about the student who I think tested in at about a 1st grade math level.
But it was only in one area that this child had a hole, is what she said. There was a hole in their learning. And she could do like multiplication facts, I think she said, but there was just still some addition that she didn't know. So it was teaching her that and working through that, but that student had no idea that she was working at that grade level because her screen looked just like every other student's screen. So and I have had the opportunity to pilot it the last couple of months with my class in addition to using Reflex. And I have found too that it does, I mean, I think I've only maybe, but I used it April and May probably. And my average growth is like 0.3. So that's, you know what, like 3 months growth probably within a school year. And I see my kids working, and it shows me, the reports are very thorough. It'll show me what they're working on. It'll show me where they didn't do a lesson well. And the kids, at first when they started, they were like, well, this is hard for some of them. And I said, well, it gives you a test, and you have to work through it to find it wants to know what you know. You have to work on it yourself. And now when I tell them, you know, some of my kids have actually mastered Reflex and are out, I tell them you're going on Dreambox, and they're like, oh yeah, I gotta get through this, you know, they have to work through it. And like everything, it has a component where, you know, it allows them to buy different things. There's a little gaminess to it, but only in the sense that it's making it fun for them. And it makes them want to come back and do it again the next day.
And so both Dreambox and Reflex have also supplemental materials that go with them as well, or is this just the?
These are the supplements.
These are the supplements.
Oh,
These would be the supplements to our illustrative program, which would be our resource that all grade levels use. And then Dreambox and Reflex would be in addition to that, to target fact fluency. And then also the Dreambox would be to target you know, kids who are struggling in areas, and then also accelerating students who already come in above grade level that's always been a struggle as a teacher. How do we teach them beyond? And this is a way to target that area. So, and then to pull groups with those kids who need it. So I found that it's going to make my job easier and allow me to help more students get them where they need to be.
Okay, all right.
You guys mentioned a little asterisk there, that it's the kid, you know, they saw this growth for the ones that were getting through.
Yep.
What is it, how many of the kids are getting through those 5 lessons a week or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Is that what this number is?
No, that's the,
The percent of students.
yeah, it's the next columns. So when you take a look at the percentage of students below, it's about 60%, but it really varies by building.
Yeah.
Just because we were in the beginning of implementation.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I was just trying to
question,
understand.
though, because you're right. 2 grade levels worth of growth sounds great,
Right.
unless it's 5 kids.
Well, that's why I was looking at coming, 25, I was like, if it's only 25% is getting 1.7, the other 75%, what is theirs? Right? That's what I was just trying to understand what the numbers were telling us. It was, okay.
Is there any chance, because I would always worry when the kids come back in the fall, how much they lost over the summer.
Well, I had in my notes that, Scott, that there is, Dreambox does have a summer availability. We had written that down in our notes. So
Yes.
that would be, I mean, to have a program that allows students to use it in the summer is huge, right? Because we as teachers know there's that summer slide, and a lot of parents will say, well, what can I do? And you can give them programs that, you know, but this would continue to allow them to work at their level. So that's huge, because I don't feel like most online programs allow that.
Reflex does too. I just hadn't published it yet because I was waiting for tonight.
And it'd be cool if our district as a whole could incentivize that somehow, you know?
Yeah, and we've talked to,
do that
we've
during
already
the
talked to
summer.
principals about how to push that out at the building level.
Good.
So everybody knows. And they asked me, hey, you know, I get emails from different
Yeah,
people.
especially with, no summer school. I mean, this would be a really good way
Absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
supplement that stuff.
So most of the students look forward to doing this and completing it, or
Oh, yes.
doing a lesson? Or-
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have with Reflex, which is, different from Dreambox, I have my wall of fame, and not only it shows maybe the minutes that they've mastered or how much time it calculates usage, it calculates their goals, it calculates how much growth they've made. So I have a wall of fame where I put things up, and everybody's excited to do it. So there's lots of opportunities for kids to be individualized and excel.
And within Reflex, there's a pretty big inter-school competition. Not everybody's involved in it, but young Mr. Wondergem pretends that everybody's competing against them. Even if they're
He brings
not.
that up on a regular basis.
But it's super fun.
Hey, he's got to win somewhere.
They love it. I want to speed through, so I showed you the comparisons between gen ed and special ed for K and 1. This is second grade last year. The second column in from the right, 87.4% of second graders made a year's growth. That's tremendous. Almost 9 out of 10 making a year's growth. 85% of special education students in second grade.
I can't wrap my head around
No,
it, Scott.
and look at the difference to a couple of years ago, and we were getting better. We had been getting better, but this is tremendous. And then third grade.
I get it, and the AI piece of it must be there, but when you look at just the entire scale of cognitive and just specific disability to play into that and to get those numbers, it's just hard to wrap my head around it. It really is.
Third grade's even higher, 93%.
Holy
Is that
cow.
even 93.8%
Yeah.
of gen ed students? 82.4% of special education students, and look at how much higher that is from the years before. Fourth grade, 86.7 gen ed, 76%, and that's fourth grade. We know those gaps have a tendency by fourth grade, they're getting wider. If we can continue to shrink these gaps for our students below grade level, it's incredible work. That's the end. So
Scott.
This is,
I'm going to interrupt you again.
absolutely.
So you're gonna pilot illustrative mathematics, right?
Yep.
What's the cost of that?
Well, the cost is printing cost. So,
Really?
and
There's no licensing to it?
Nope, it's an open educational resource.
Nice.
And that's why leaning on the Ed Reports reviews are so important to make sure that it's quality. And it is. From everything we've seen, Kristen's tried a couple of units. It's a little, it has some things that are gonna take some adjustment. We're excited about that. It's a little more student discourse focused. So as a former math teacher, kids are talking more than just rather rote solving problems, things like that. But we're excited about it. We're spending some money. There's some money on some center kits that we ordered, and then printing the cost. We told when we surveyed the teachers said they need teacher manuals, we know that. They need student workbooks, we know that, and so we'll give them all the things they need to.
Nice.
And so you'll create for them, out of all of that material available, a scope and sequence that you want everyone across every grade level to follow. Great.
What do those centers look like, the center materials look like?
I don't have them in hand yet. It's a lot of game boards and dice rolling.
A lot of manipulatives and
So
such.
within the lessons, and I only dabbled in this, I just piloted it for one unit. Within the lessons, there are games that are created that practice the skills. So the centers become additional games and or activities that the kids can do that will be reviewing skills and practicing skills from what I have seen. And so my students loved when we were using this math program because it is a different approach. They were, sorting cards when it came to we did shapes and time and finding differences and talking about it. It was a different approach to teaching, I'm going to be honest, but my kids were thrilled, and when we had to go back, I had some kids like, oh, we really liked that other math, and I said, well, we're going to finish up with the program that we have. So it's very student focused, and there's a lot of kids talking, and like he said, with the discourse, which I think lends itself to a more comprehensive resource.
So in there, because I love that tactile piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that interactive piece, and that's why I love the AI piece too when it shows this kind of data. But there's that whole idea of learning through play, especially K-4, is so important, and so that tactile piece is important. So that's cool. I love it.
We're really excited. Obviously we have a lot to celebrate. I'm excited. I hadn't started poking into Cummings math scores yet for the spring, so this is the first time Kristen has shared that, their continued success. So they have a lot to be proud of. One of the things that, this is a very specific request based on our team's analysis of data and, talking about the need. And we're excited about it. If the pilot of illustrative for next year, we're going to collect data throughout the year from our teachers. If that goes well, we'll bring that back for full adoption over time. If for some reason it falls on its face, we don't think it will, but then we'll pivot
And it's a district-wide pilot?
It's a district-wide pilot.
Yay, good.
This is the fidelity that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that.
So let's see if I got the comprehension right on this, right? Let's see if I listened correctly. When we went into Envisions, it kind of took care of our COVID era situation very easily. It has not performed overall amongst all modules in areas. The cost is expensive. You found a variety of other programs that help achieve and fill the gaps of what Envision was, and then the other modules that help provide the robust areas that really are lacking, have been lacking. What's the net savings?
That's spot on. Well, there's not a net savings because we don't have an annual cost. Like Envisions, we paid for up front.
I understand.
So I think.
But you changed it because of the cost. That's how you started this discussion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but we're spending differently, so it's hard to quantify. So we're spending differently. So Reflex, I brought a 2-year license. I'm asking for a 2-year license from you because I can get about $3,000 in savings from them for that year. Dreambox doesn't offer that. They tell me if you sign a multi-year, we'll lock in the same rate. Well, I'll barter for the same rate later. rather than pay up front. So rather than when we bought Envisions, we paid up front for 6 years and we got all the workbooks. We still have shelves of workbooks upstairs that I'm selling to Kellogg'sville because we didn't use them. So over the course of some years, it's hard to say because also the costs have increased so much over 6 years. If we were going to buy Envisions, we wouldn't have anything else. So in that case, it's kind of a wash.
That's what I was waiting for you to tell me.
I think the cost would be about the same, but I think this is an instructional value add.
Well, I think everything you've presented, sorry to
Right, we
interrupt.
talked about keeping, if we were to have Envisions, that would be fine, but then we wouldn't have the additional resources, which is where we have seen the growth from Envisions. So that is why we have decided that we want these three pieces together to meet the needs of our students.
Yep, no, I tracked well. I just wanted to see
And
what's the net.
your summary was spot on.
Okay, nice job.
I applaud you guys. Everyone always is looking for the all-in-one, right? The all-in-one solution, right? What it sounds like Envisions we were hoping was. And I can tell you, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I'm sure you guys see it too. We see it in HR all the time. Everyone wants that all-in-one. But it's so much better when you have these individual components that can give you a better solution. It just takes a little more work, and I know Walt probably spins, in his chair with me. Here's we're gonna have 5 different, math programs as opposed to one all-inclusive. But if they give us better results, that's really what we're looking for.
Andy has
So
to
I
deal with
applaud you guys.
NWEA going blank on him during the day.
Which has happened more this spring than I think in the last couple of years. And back in 2018, Envisions was the right choice.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, it was even a better choice. We couldn't have forecasted that, but it was important to lean on.
Yeah.
I think we
And
got
now we're in a
that, for
different
sure,
place.
we got that at the right time with COVID.
Yeah.
Because it was just, there, but we need more now.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one more question? So
Yeah.
then also, what is the plan for training the entire district then? What's the plan for that?
So at about 8:57 tonight, an email is going out to K-4 teachers. We're hosting an initial training June 2nd around illustrative math. We have, because teachers like Kristen and our K-1 teachers have been using Dreambox, which will now be K-4.
Okay.
So there's another level of fidelity and consistency
Yay,
for all
yes.
teachers. We have online modules that we recorded when we did some initial training for our pilot teachers that we're going to make available.
And that is honestly what, I wasn't able to attend the virtual training, that is, I just watched the video and kind of trained myself to get started on the program. And then also, our plan is for PD next year, we're gonna focus our PD days on continual,
Wonderful.
I guess PD on the program and helping support teachers throughout the year, which I think is gonna be instrumental in the fidelity of the program and the teachers really buying into it and using it well.
Yep. Awesome.
Great job.
Great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Great job. Any other discussion? All right. Let's do a roll call vote.
Campbell?
Yes.
Gardine, yes. DeHaan?
Yes.
Stefas?
Yes.
Wonderjum?
Yes.
Banette?
Yes.
Hybler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, that's all the regular action items. Discussion items, educator evaluation update.
Yes, so as one of our other goals, in addition to the data review systems piece that we did earlier today, Mr. Philo is going to go over, you may recall our educator evaluation system changed, some components of it, and he's here to update us on what's taking place and where we're at.
So I know the trick between you guys finishing up and being here for forever is my word. So I'm going to try to be brief if I can. So as we shifted over at the beginning of this year, the law changed. Used to be that there were 4 rating systems, which included highly effective, effective, minimally effective, and effective. That changed to 3 ratings of effective, developing, and needing support. And so what we did over the spring and early summer of last year was work with our EA and tried to look at the model that we were currently using under Marzano, and then also how does that then layer into the ratings that we would kind of play ourselves into. A part of that also at that point instructionally is we started talking a lot more specifically about creating the guaranteed and viable curriculum that allows all staff at all grade levels, at all course levels to be essentially working through the same processes, identifying those critical standards and working their way through it, and then being able to provide grades based on how well students get to that meeting point. And the previous Marzano model that had 67 elements just didn't really get us where we needed to be. So we started talking about the Marzano focused model, which has 6 teacher elements and 17 student result focused elements. And it allowed us to not only get obviously more focused on what were the most critical elements inside of that rubric, but then also from a consistency standpoint, if you're measuring the same 23 scores for all teachers, you get a better consistency of rating as well. And so we shifted to that new focused model. It really didn't change significantly the how of our evaluation practice, because we had already shifted to an every other year model for the folks that had had 3 years or more of highly effective. Now it rolls into 3 years of effective and tenure, where every other year they won't get a formal observation, but they're still being measured on their growth data. So they're still getting growth data goals. They've got to build those with their principals, and their principals meet with them mid-year, and then at the end of the year they look at that data score and they use that data score to provide an evaluation score, because we still have to give an evaluation score for every person. The few things that added into it, though, for this year is it required a minimum of 15 minutes for the observations. I'm not sure, somewhere along the line in other places they were doing less than 15-minute observations. We were not, to my knowledge. Requires feedback within 30 days. Again, that's something that we were already doing or should have been doing. But some of the new things that were in there that were very specific are the review of the lesson plan, the review of the state standard that was being taught, and then also a measure of pupil engagement as a part of that lesson. And we were consistently doing those things, but calling it out in the law and then being able to apply it to that focused model was a really nice move on our part, and something that we agreed to with our EA, which I thought was really great. On the administrator side, administrators are required to be evaluated every 2 years if, again, they have 3 consecutive years of effective ratings. But mid-year progress reports are required each year regardless. Building observations are required, so Roger goes out and I go out and Scott goes out and we watch principals doing their work and providing some of that feedback. And then also we use, you saw the voice surveys on the MTSS presentation. We utilize that data to provide real feedback to our principals, and coincidentally tomorrow we're meeting with each of them to have them give us some feedback on what they saw on that voice data, be it for us to be able to give them some feedback on that. And this will be meeting number 3 with each one of our principals. We did an initial in the year meeting, what are your goals for this year, what are you working on? We did mid-year meetings with them, where are you at in all your work? And then now we're getting to the final, where we kind of look at our school advance rubric that we use for all of our administrators, similar to the school advance rubric that we use for Roger. And give them feedback on those areas, and then come up with a kind of a final evaluation score there. So the critical thing that it put out for us was that each person needed to get trained. That was kind of that, sometimes you get those unfunded mandates, right? So all of our administrators were trained this year. I need to get scheduled a training for our board, so that you can get a look at how to do that evaluator or the training in giving an evaluation for the superintendent. We kind of held off on that because we had new members coming in, and then we had new members coming in, so we wanted to make sure that when we did that to the best of our ability, we could get all 7 of you together. So I'm going to do some work in trying to identify a potential future date, maybe even in the summer. The MASA can do it over like a Zoom, like a 3-hour Zoom, so if we can find a time where we can all be able to jump into that together and do some learning, that's a part that we still need to get completed. But outside of that, those are the pieces that we were able to enact, we were able to work through, and now we're in the process of finalizing those with folks, and our principals are having their meetings with their staff, and we're looking at how that data rolls in. The data now is only 20%, but we held on to the 10% of that 20%, or half of their data, as our district SAT score. And we use that coming out of the EVAS system, which measures the effect that teaching, that a system has on the score, and compares it comparatively across other like districts to say, are you outperforming, are you at, are you under? We consistently outperform, and we use that K-12 because we believe that the work we do in kindergarten impacts the scores that students get as an 11th grader. And it's applicable then also to our teachers who are also teaching our seniors, which don't necessarily have a state assessment. Now, the new law doesn't require that you use a state assessment. We were able to keep that as a part of the work that we're doing because it is so important, and because our system as a whole provides really positive data for our teachers as it relates to the SAT score. So.
Nice overview.
Thank you. Questions on the changes or any of those pieces?
How have the admin felt about this, the changes to the principals and such?
Adam?
I think it's better aligned with what we're doing.
Yeah.
For example, I've been able to have more meaningful conversations with our teachers about the work that we're actually trying to implement in the classroom and how that correlates back. I had one teacher say to me, "So this is why you're doing all this work with the Guaranteed and Valuable Curriculum for our evaluation?" I said, "No. The Guaranteed and Valuable Curriculum work is put in place to increase student outcomes and achievement, right? So if we as teachers are doing what we need to be doing, the outcomes and achievement will go up, and therefore your impact as an educator score goes up as well."
Yeah.
So it's again, you've heard a lot about systems tonight. This integrates well into our system. It's allowed us to have more meaningful conversations, and it's put a lot more conversation back on the student learning rather than just, as you remember, Sally, the traditional administrator coming into your room and seeing what the teacher was doing. It's about, are the students learning? And I think that that's a powerful conversation.
And do you feel the teachers then are buying into what you're implementing then with their evaluations then?
I think they're starting to see that. I think, it was a little bit of a change this year because we went from 4 domains down to 1. Had a state system that changed a rating system, so there's been some different conversations. Teachers are seeing a score that looks very different than they had in the past, and we've had to have those conversations and explain that to them. But those conversations are about, well, you're doing the right things, and you're going to see these scores going up because you're implementing these pieces in your classroom that are having outcomes based on our student outcomes. And I think sometimes in the old system, it was much about, there was that tension about, am I highly effective, am I not highly effective? This puts, there's still that element of a rating, but it's based on what you're being able to get out of the outcome of students.
Yeah, and the top score in their rubric, it's a 4-point rubric inside of the tool. The top form of that is our teachers using performance scales. So that essentially means, does the teacher and do the students know to what level they need to understand that topic? And we haven't measured that this year because of the other changes that are there, but that becomes one of the next pieces that we put into play, because it's really important that students know, if you say, I need you to do this, well, to what level do you need me to do it? Because I have high school students, and I know if their teacher says, I need you to do this minimally, they will do that minimally, right? So if we can give them that rating scale to make sure that they can land in that place, I think that part is really important. The other thing that it does, that it says in that top part of that scoring rubric, it aligns with what we talked about from an intervention piece. It's after the teacher teaches a lesson and the students are getting through their performance scales, do they make a change to impact learning for students that haven't hit it? And so there are some really specific things inside the rubric that align with the MTSS work that we're doing, the work that we're doing in and around making sure our kids, we get feedback on what our kids are not doing and to what level they are doing it. So it's helping us to really truly align all of the work and the messaging that we have, which has been great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it, John. All right, if there's no other discussion items, we'll move on to public comment. First person up is Brandy Ritzma. Brandy, you'll have 5 minutes, and Mr. Hahn will give you a warning at 1 minute left.
Okay. Shouldn't take that long.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Ritzma. I've worked in education for over 10 years, and I come before you tonight as a mother whose parental rights have been repeatedly violated by Grandville Public Schools. This district has not only failed to protect my children, it has actively contributed to the alienation of my family and allowed one parent to control the narrative while silencing and erasing the other. Last year, Grandville cheer coaches falsely accused me of assault and other serious things. Police and CPS were called several hours later based on completely fabricated claims. I had to spend nearly $1,000 on FOIA requests just to prove the incident never happened as it was stated. Despite providing evidence, the school's coaches never apologized, never retracted their statements, and never took responsibility and never corrected their false records. That moment shattered trust, and our family has never been the same. When my daughter moved to a new building, the alienation only escalated. A school counselor who has never spoken to me told CPS she heard I was manipulative. She shared unverified opinions, not facts, had no firsthand knowledge of anything, while refusing to provide me with updates or basic transparency about my own child. Even after building a rapport with her, she was advised not to put anything in writing to me when I've asked her for updates. One of my children has a 504 plan. The school knows I am being alienated, and yet they act as if I have no rights, despite there being no court order suspending my parenting time. They freely communicate with CPS and other agencies openly about my child, spreading hearsay and speculation while denying those same conversations with me, the legal parent. It's a double standard that is unethical, unconstitutional, and very harmful. When I discovered my daughter was playing sports without being informed by anyone, mind you, everybody knows I'm being alienated, I quietly attended a game. She flipped me off on the field in uniform, in front of spectators. Coaches said nothing. When I requested accountability, I was told by administration it was a parent-child issue. No, this is a student representing your school engaging in public misconduct and disrespect, and your staff and coaches are enabling it. She was also suspended for 60 days, but was allowed to return early without explanation. Phone calls were made with the superintendent and the other parent, and I was just updated afterwards and told to attend. Because her father manipulated the school for leverage in a custody dispute. No other student gets special treatment like that. Now she is continuing to bring outside conflicts, personal and social media related issues into the school, and instead of teaching resolution or boundaries, the school is suspending other students based on her feelings about events that didn't even happen at school. Grandville has effectively become an enforcer of her personal emotions, empowering her to avoid accountability and further division between families and further disrespect to her own parents. Grandville is failing not only me, but every family that expects fairness, respect, and student-focused leadership. This district is choosing sides, fueling alienation, violating FERPA, and making divorced families feel isolated and silenced. I demand oversight, respectfully, reform, and accountability before another child is emotionally harmed and another parent is erased.
1 minute.
Grandville, you know better. It's time to do better. We need to build these bridges within our families instead of breaking them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That is all the public comment we have. The next board meeting of the Grandville Board of Education will be Monday, June 2nd, 2025. The budget hearing will begin at 6:30 p.m., followed by the regular meeting at 7 p.m. at the administration building. We are adjourned.